Americans are not winning their battle against obesity.
Diabetes, meanwhile, is a global epidemic that today represents an estimated $25 billion drug and device market.
Between 1995 and 2010, over $250 billion was spent on subsidizing foods that are making Americans fat.
It's an ongoing battle every night for millions of Americans getting 8 hours of sleep.
All of the provisions of the Health Care Reform Act that have gone into effect so far have pushed up premiums about 1.5%.
My name is Pedram Shojai, and I've spent years working with patients from all walks of life. As I got further along in my training, it occurred to me that there was a critical component that was missing from our healthcare model today. The Latin root of the word doctor, docere, means to teach. What if our doctors taught us how to live well so we wouldn't be dependent on drugs and expensive therapies? What if our healthcare system was about the enhancement of our health and the bolstering of our systems so we could actually thrive in this world? What if there were a better way? I interviewed the world's experts on health and discussed a medical model that's not centered on disease, but instead on vitality.
I would look at vitality as having the energy to be able to do whatever you want to do in your life.
I think vitality has to do something with a zest for life. We have neglected a huge part of what it means to be human. You know, the perennial philosophy has been know thyself. And we have shrunk down that aspect of knowing ourselves so completely in our society that we have cut off this larger dimension of what it means to be human.
Medicine took on a very different look after World War II. Before then, physicians were trained in classical bedside diagnosis and had several effective remedies that worked remarkably well for most diseases. After the war, our amazing industrial advancements began to change the way we farmed. As we got busier and life's pace picked up, food became faster and we started having new kinds of health problems. Drunk on post-war success, we believed that scientific advancements would bail us out of anything. That's when the chemical manufacturing industry jumped in and started to make new drugs for everything.
The intent has been lost, not from the drug company's point of view. Their intent is to sell drugs and to sell as many drugs as they can. But from the doctor's point of view, a lot of the young guys coming out of medicine today, because they're not taught anything about natural health care, and it seems they're not taught about the diet, nutrition, and drinking water, they're learning that only drugs can affect metabolism and bring about a cure. And it's not really a cure. It's always been a suppression of symptoms.
As a former CEO of a medical group, my final days of practicing old paradigm medicine was when I realized that the only way to get profitable was to bring in more high-ticket items, services and procedures that generated more revenue. In fact, it occurred to me that the best way to keep the offices full and my doctors busy was to not cure the patients and keep them coming back. I realized that the system sees them as income-producing units moving through a machine instead of individuals who might have better things to do than to sit around in our waiting rooms. I had come face to face with the moral dilemma of the broken system.
Genuinely, you can't practice medicine in the United States. What is known as the real practice of medicine is virtually impossible.
The healthcare system is basically set up for sick patient goes to doctor and gets healed. That's wrong. You can't keep telling people, do whatever you want, we're gonna fix it, just come see me and I'll give you a pill, and you can drink as much as you want, you can eat as much as you want, don't worry about getting overweight, don't worry about anything. We can fix it. That is not sustainable.
I feel a lot of compassion to my medical brethren and sister, because they're in a situation where they have to see a patient every 7 to 10 minutes, and in that 7 to 10 minutes, all you can do is make a diagnosis and prescribe a drug. You can't get into why people are sick.
This is a microscopic view of germs magnified several million times. When germs attack the human body, they often cause serious and dangerous diseases, such as diphtheria, a vicious disease of children. Germs in unknown trillions upon trillions infest the earth. They cripple and maim and destroy human life. To combat these germs and to protect public health, modern medical practice enlists the aid of vaccines, serums, medicines, and drugs.
Drugs have made marvelous strides for us, and there's certainly a place for life-saving remedies in our world. But that's not the issue.
I think the better living through chemistry generation is rapidly proving to be fool's gold, a false god. And it's very, very clear that if you manage your health well, the odds are you're not going to need pills for your blood sugar, for your blood pressure, for your heart, for your depression. But again, it comes back to personal responsibility.
You know, there are people that feel like I pay my HMO dues, here's my $5 copay, I shouldn't have any responsibility beyond that. And they want to just take the magic supplement or the magic drug and get better.
You know, you've got a drug to get up in the morning. You've got a pill to get it up. You've got a pill to take it down. You've got a pill to go to sleep. You've got a pill to be more creative. You've got pills for everything these days.
Are you tired of needing to sleep? Does it bother you that you have to breathe so often? You may be suffering from life. Rest assured, you're not alone. Join the millions of happy people who are now taking Soprano. When your body says no, we say go for it. Ask your doctor. Better yet, just tell them. Side effects may include insomnia, premature death, infertility, headaches, nausea, kidney failure, premature hair loss, IBS, TMJ, premature ejaculation, cataracts, delusions of grandeur, hypertension, voting for the guy who smiles a lot, vertigo, shopping for leisure, weight gain, addiction to TV, severe depression. Visit us at soprano.com.
So Soprano's not really a drug, but how far off is that from the stuff you see on TV every day?
Really important to not pay attention to these drug ads and to really start to self-educate about what you can do to not take drugs for every condition and to make sure that what your condition is not a condition that should be treated with anything.
Then you look at what is the cost of treating the adverse reaction to drugs. So here's a study that was done in Seattle, and they found that for every dollar spent on a drug, we spent $1.85 treating the side effects of the drug.
The tendency is to give the patient a drug, and then if they're having a side effect from that drug, instead of stopping the drug, you just say, well, I can give you something so that it doesn't bother you as much. And after a while, the patient's on 3 or 4 drugs, and if you stop the first one, they'd be on none.
If you look at the global health statistics from the World Health Organization, the United States ranks number 1 in healthcare dollars spent, and number 37 in actual health behind Dominica and Costa Rica. Throwing more money at the problem is obviously not the solution.
Now, wait a minute, Doctor. I think that Steve... You wait a minute. What you think has no bearing whatever on your condition.
We've totally been stripped of our personal involvement in our own health care. Now it seems like it's the insurance companies that tell us where to go and who to see, hoping they'll pay for what we need.
If you think about it, the insurance company really doesn't provide anything, but they are incredibly profitable, with the CEOs of the major healthcare insurers taking home tens of millions of dollars in bonuses at the end of the year. That clearly isn't because they provided good care for patients. And what I explain to patients is that we're their healthcare providers. Their insurance company's responsibility is not for their well-being. Their insurance company is responsible to their shareholders to try to be profitable. And as long as you have a middleman looking to make profit, then clearly there's no way you can improve the efficiency, financial efficiency of medicine.
And the purpose of insurance companies is to spread risk. And the way the insurance companies make money is by taking a percentage. So the more expensive healthcare is, the more the income is of insurance companies.
Take these pills, go to this provider, get this treatment, no time for questions, pay your copay, and hurry up. That's just to address the physical complaint you came in with.
And we're not just talking about the body.
We're talking about the mind, how well it functions. We're talking about our emotional life, our feelings. We're certainly talking about the quality of our interpersonal relationships. And we're talking about our spiritual life. And only when all of those elements have that vital balance, then and only then can we embody what I would call health.
Every healing system in the world has its strengths, has its weaknesses. There's no healing method that has a monopoly on healing truth or on understanding the source of disease or how to treat it. And that's why the concept of integrative or complementary medicine is so important, because we can work together in a common goal of relieving human suffering.
Modern medicine absolutely does miracles in what it does. There's no way around saying, my God, that you can take a heart out and put another heart into a person, or if a person's leg is broken in 12 places, the next thing you know, it's all set back together and put back into order. And this is where medicine does miracles, trauma. But there's a whole large area that this allopathic vision doesn't really cover. Issues of disease that are not trauma related. Issues of disease that are related to biology of perception or psychology and emotions and stresses. And stress turns out, in fact, to be one of the biggest issues of healthcare. We now find that 90% of doctor visits are due to stress. So we're going to have to seek other ways of approaching health besides the focus of trauma that allopathic medicine has been involved with.
So let's shift our focus on a new paradigm. A new model that emphasizes life and vitality. It's about taking health back into our own hands and working with good doctors to help enhance our well-being.
The first thing you want to do is look at how you're living. Look at your life and say, what can I do to live healthier? Can I eat more whole foods? Can I get exercise? Can I start avoiding environmental toxins I've been exposed to? And so you develop a plan, I started to become healthier. So you get into a spiral of improving health rather than what most people are in, which is a spiral of decreasing health and increasing dependence on drugs.
A lot of people aren't able to live the life they want to live strictly due to lack of energy.
The body has daily energy needs, and it's our ability to get energy and resources where they need to be which will determine our relative state of health. If we extract adequate energy from our food, get enough oxygen, exercise enough, and rest and recover when we need to, then we have a functioning system that takes care of itself and helps stave off disease. So how do we optimize lifestyle? We look at the spokes on the wheel of vitality and work to optimize each of them, knowing that they all interact and feed into each other. Once we get the wheels going, our health comes back online and the body's systems start working together the way they were designed to. We're alive and robust and full of life.
If you take a look at the entire scientific literature, you'll find that there's one treatment for depression that is more effective than any other treatment. Nothing comes close to it, and that's exercise. So instead of, let's say, changing brain chemistry by having someone exercise more, they'd rather take a pill. They'd rather have a chemical problem and have a need for these things. So I think our population has been conditioned, especially by pharmaceutical interest, even nutritional companies, to think that you just need to take a magic pill to make some change. But just the fact of moving and doing some type of activity have major impacts on cardiovascular protection, have major impacts on blood sugar management, have major impacts on brain.
The problems are feeling like exercising, knowing what to do, for how long, and how to avoid injury. If you've been inactive, ramping up slowly with daily walks and stretching is key.
I always tell people, do what you enjoy doing, but be patient with yourself. Don't be one of these weekend warriors that, during the week you don't do anything. You're sitting at a desk and you don't stretch, you don't do anything, and on the weekend you blow it out. You run, you play tennis, and then by Sunday night, Monday morning, you can't move your body.
So many injuries happen with people who hunch over their desks all day and sit in cars too often. Dr. Tim Brown is a world expert on posture.
We want to really encourage people not to sit, because we're finding that sitting is probably one of the most damaging things that we can do for our health. In America, we sit on the average of 9.3 hours a day. Heck, Pedram, we only sleep 7.3 hours a day, so we're sitting a lot, we're not moving a lot. And I'm convinced that one of the definitions of life is movement. Life is movement and movement is life. And whenever we stop that, we have problems. So if we add up those hours, doing the quick math, that's about 17 hours a day where we're not really moving.
Understanding how the body works is not taught in school, so it's nice to have people in the know who can show us how to move.
You see, our skeletons and muscles are designed to support our vital organs so that they can do their best work. If we sag, these organs are pushed out of their proper positions. The muscles are stretched too, under a strain which they were not designed to take. And here's where habit comes in. If you usually slump when you're sitting or walking, as this boy does, your body will accustom itself to poor posture.
Getting the scapulae down on the back so the shoulders work correctly is key for the upper body. I met with David Bradley, who taught me some ways of training the shoulders to stay in position while driving and sitting for long periods of time.
That's what we're trying to get you to do, activate that, and you have it right there. That's your lower trap we're trying to get.
Okay. And how long do I hold before I release?
5 to 10 seconds. So when you're driving, just try to hold it for an endurance. Just kind of make sure you're in that position because it's a postural muscle. You're tight in here. And you're still drive and move your arms.
Okay, so stay locked, and then go here.
Yep, and then you can move, and that's the position. So when you're driving, we just don't want you to be going to your default. Bam.
Right. Collapse.
Collapse. And then you're going to bite the anterior shoulder. And you can have your pain.
In order to stabilize the lower body, we need the hip muscles firing correctly with good flexibility. Functional exercises for the hips and knees are important for people in the modern world. Justin Franson works with elite athletes, and he ran me through a routine to offset all the sitting time.
And then sit down into the heels, good. Breathe in, now keep your sternum open at the bottom. Let's really open this area up. So we gotta get some thoracic flexibility.
Although running can help burn calories and is great for the heart, research shows that full body cross training has more lasting benefits.
I'm actually a great believer in strength training because when you build more muscle, that muscle is very, very dense in mitochondria, and that then produces more energy for your body to work more. And while aerobics are fine, they are not a substitute for actually producing more muscle. And another advantage of producing more muscle is that muscle makes your insulin work better. And that one reason people get obesity, diabetes and such, they develop something called metabolic syndrome. And metabolic syndrome is basically the body stopping responding to insulin. And as you build more muscle mass, you start responding to insulin better, and so you start losing weight.
Doesn't it make sense to listen to a doctor who practices what he preaches? Arthur Gazarians is the fittest doctor I know. What does he do? Lots of squats, pull-ups, push-ups, and functional training. Oh yeah, and because his muscles are strong enough to support his joints, he also runs marathons for fun, without burnout. The emphasis is on how he does it though. It's about how he eats.
Obesity is rampant, it's epidemic, and therefore going with that is hypertension, hyperlipidemia, hyperglycemia. So without dietary reform, none of that's going to be fixed.
One of the reasons people are being obese today is because of the insulinogenic effect of the foods they're eating. So the foods that produce insulin are those where you have sugars that have been processed to the point that they're readily available, readily absorbable. So the obvious thing is sugar. Okay, high fructose corn syrup, white flour, fruit juice. Okay? All of those are very insulinogenic.
Insulin is what the body uses to shuttle sugars into the cells once we've eaten. It's worked really well for us for millions of years, but the agricultural revolution has shifted lots more simple sugars into our diets. It's these new manufactured foods that are causing all kinds of problems.
To really oversimplify the whole process and make it easy to understand, you just want to avoid the hypoglycemic response. When you just eat a sugary product, when you eat something that does not have a lot of fiber, you get a quick blood sugar response. Then insulin turns on, pulls that blood sugar back out of the bloodstream and leaves you in a hypoglycemic response.
The quickest way to sidestep the blood sugar roller coaster is to move to a vegetable-based diet which consists of more lean proteins and fresh vegetables. Getting good fats is also key.
Fats have been villainized for far too long. You can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's a whole difference between healthy fats and unhealthy fats. Most of the fats we take in today have too much omega-6, not enough omega-3. Sunlight goes into the grass produces omega-3, animals eat the omega-3 gets into the animals, we eat the animals, we get the omega-3. That's the cut and dry of it, right? Really simple. We get the anti-inflammatory fats. Animals are not eating grass anymore. They're eating monocrops. They're being fed soy, corn, wheat, you name it. And because of that, they're getting too much omega-6. So we eat those animals and we get those inflammatory fats.
The body creates a perimeter around an area where it senses an infection or tissue damage. This allows for healing factors to get there and clean up the situation. Certain foods make this mechanism spiral out of control, triggering an inflammatory fire. Inflammation just happens to be associated with most of the chronic diseases we suffer from today. Another big issue is not eating often enough. If we constantly starve our bodies by missing meals and eating irregularly, we put ourselves into adrenal stress. It also increases our risk of getting diabetes. An estimated 1 in 5 healthcare dollars spent in the US today is due to diabetes. Snacking every 3 hours really helps keep the blood sugar stable. And now we're finding that how we combine our foods has a lot of influence on the integrity of the bacterial colonies in our guts.
People today are usually in a state of autotoxemia due to deranged bowel flora. It's an enormous problem.
You know, when you look at this entire flora, there's good bacteria and there's bad bacteria, and people ask, well, what's the good bacteria doing? What's the bad bacteria doing? Now, all organisms eat. Well, what does an organism do after they've processed their food? They eliminate. They pee and they poop and they sweat. Well, bacteria do the exact same thing. Now, the good bacteria, the pee and the poop of the good bacteria is your B vitamins, and you absorb those. But the pee and the poop of the bad bacteria are heavy-duty chemicals and methane gas and hydrogen sulfide gases and these poison gases and poison chemicals that we reabsorb.
And then if you put food combining on top of that, which, you know, the typical American diet is notoriously terrible on gut health, combining, you know, starches and proteins and eating way too much at one sitting and drinking way too much liquids and diluting your hydrochloric acid. It is the problem. It is the clinical problem, and that's how most chronic diseases get started.
Poor gut health leads to malabsorption, ulcers, acid reflux, and a host of other diseases we take drugs for, all helped by learning how to eat better. So our poor eating habits create an internal toxic environment. But what about the toxins from the outside?
We have a huge challenge in society today because of the level of environmental toxins we're being exposed to. These environmental toxins range from heavy metals in the environment, things like pesticides in the foods we eat, and unfortunately it's even in the packaging of the foods that we eat. Some of the things are called the bisphenols, that are chemicals in these plastics and such that leach into our foods and have known adverse physiological effects. Two of the most vulnerable areas in our body to the environmental toxins are, number one, our immune system. The immune system is very, very sensitive to environmental toxins. You get exposed to environmental toxins, you get a lot more infections. And the second part is our mitochondria. As you might know, mitochondria are little organelles in our cells that produce energy that then makes our body work. Well, the mitochondria are also very, very sensitive to environmental toxins, so people experience more fatigue.
Genes, inventions, power, black out the past. Forget the quiet cities. Bring in the steam and steel, the iron men, the giants. Open the throttle, all aboard, the promised land. Pillars of smoke by day, pillars of fire by night, pillars of progress. Machines to make machines, production to expand production. There's wood and wheat and kitchen sinks and calico, all ready-made in tons and carload lots. Enough for tens, thousands, millions, millions, faster and faster, better and better.
The body needs a lot of water to help eliminate some of these toxins, and most people are chronically dehydrated, which makes the situation worse. It's really important to drink at least 3 liters of water a day, and even more if you're toxic. What really adds fuel to this fire is the consumption of sodas, caffeine, and sugary drinks, which dehydrate us even more.
The first and most important step in disease prevention is really what you eat on a daily basis. And it's really what you do on a daily basis that either chips away at your health or enhances your life force.
So how do we get clean, healthy foods into our diets and make them available for our families?
Corporations will give us what we want because that's their job. Their job is to provide consumers what they want. Well, consumers say, I want clean food. I want clean water. I don't want my food to be contaminated with pesticides and heavy metals and things like this. By choosing those healthier foods, you make a big difference. So some foods, organically grown versus conventionally grown, not a lot of difference. Some foods, there's a huge difference. So pick those as a place to start. Now, a lot of people will say, well, it's too expensive. And it is true, organically grown food on the short run is a bit more expensive, although in the long run, it's a lot healthier because you're not spending all the money on the healthcare system. And what you find is you start being healthier, it's easier to make healthy decisions.
Okay, we're here with Dr. Jason Deo. We're at the Santa Monica Farmers Market. We're going to do a walkthrough and basically see what's going on, see what the local organic farmers are bringing, and we're going to essentially walk around, talk to these guys, and show you guys how easy it is to just get organic produce.
The raspberries at the health food store yesterday were $6.99 for this little box. Here we're getting 3 for $11. If you think you can't shop at the farmer's market and save money, you're crazy. Look at this. Yeah, the thing you have to watch out for when you see range-free, that usually means soy-fed. So you have to ask, say, I understand these are range-free eggs, but what did they eat? And obviously sprouts, sunflowers, grass, and that's great. That's what chickens are supposed to eat. We keep running into this problem. A client will come in, they'll get all the information they need on how to eat healthy and what to eat. And what do they do? How do they apply it? What happens when they get back into the kitchen that they've been trained to be afraid of? They have their 2 or 3 recipes they're comfortable making that they've grown up with, and that's it. And the rest of the time they go out to dinner. Well, coming into a farmer's market where you take things like, you've got all these fresh herbs, and then the same guy who makes the fresh herbs puts them all together into a little blend for you. Buying that pre-made organic little blend and doing something creative, finding something, a chicken dish, a vegetable dish where you're putting these pre-made spices on top, exploring it, re-empowering yourself with having some fun in the kitchen. It's easy to do, it's not too far away.
We've lost that whole sense of ritual with the family, of meal preparation and sitting around the table and enjoying each other's company and finding out how was school or how was your day at work and really talking. We're all about quick texts here and there. I'm on my way home, and then you eat, somebody's cooked something, left it on the stove, or you just pick something up on your way home. And that's so sad. And when we reconnect with food, and we really can use it to reconnect with the family.
So as we start getting more efficiency from our food, we have more energy to feel like exercising. And as we start to spin that wheel, even more energy starts to become available to us, but all of this is tempered and balanced by sleep and recovery.
Nobody stops to rest anymore. We're a society of go, go, go and multitasking, rarely stopping to listen to what our body needs and to honor what our body is telling us.
We live a pretty intense lifestyle, and it seems like sleep is the one that always gets left out. During sleep is when our body does a lot of the regeneration. During sleep is when our brains produce more enzymes that detoxify the chemical toxins that build up in our brain during the day, or when we're sleeping, we get rid of them. If you look at the amount of sleep we get today compared to our grandparents and great-grandparents 100 years ago, we average 2 hours a night less sleep than we used to get as a species.
For millions of years, we've evolved in a way where the absence of light signals our brains to slow down and start repairing and restoring after a long, hard day. Today, most of us never even see the night sky, and we're inundated by artificial light well into the evening hours. This confuses the brain, and it tricks it into thinking that we need to be marching along and handling our daytime activities. Even when we do fall asleep, this affects how deeply we can rest.
I gotta get some sleep. What goes on? I'm all wound up like a top talking to that guy. Fine. Now I can't sleep.
Wound up like a top. Yes, that's a good way to put it. And getting wound up, excitement, anticipation, minor indecisions, confusion, anything like that, is a sure way to postpone sleep.
Sleep is not just a matter of quantity, it's the quality of the sleep as well. And so teaching people how to sleep and how to allow their bodies to really pull the energy that they need from the sleep process is really important. Part of rest means not living a life that's so frantic that our body, our mind, our heart, our adrenals are constantly racing and diminishing the total amount of vital energy that the rest of the system has. I think that it's really important to just build in periods of time during the day where we rest.
We've become a culture addicted to caffeine and stimulants, unable to think or function without the added boost. It's like we need to borrow energy from tomorrow to get through today. Relaxing the mind and calming the nervous system is something that's been woven into the fabric of many cultures. Meditation, yoga, and Tai Chi are just a few examples of the many ways we can learn to calm our minds and give our bodies the rest and recovery time they need.
So here's some basic sleep tips for you. First of all, no caffeine after noon. If you're having problems sleeping, caffeine's just going to keep you cranked up. Number 2, the bedroom is for sleeping and making love. No TV. If you have a TV in your bedroom, that's going to be causing all kinds of problems. You want to read something that's not too exciting, something that's going to help you go to sleep. No bills, no arguments, none of the things that are going to wind you up before going to bed. Another thing is, make sure you got some fresh air coming in the room, but not too much right over your bed so you're not getting cold air or cold draft waking you up. So you got enough ventilation, it's not too hot, and keep it dark. And that's going to really help you sleep.
It's interesting, there are people who heal more easily, and there are those who, no matter what you do, they just don't seem to get better. And I think it begins first with attitude and awareness. People with a positive attitude, they're going to deal with their illness, they're going to defeat the illness, they're going to really take care of themselves, that they deserve to take care of themselves. I mean, there's so many scripts that people have running in their head that we really have to look at as well, that will interfere with or actually facilitate healing.
Most physicians know that about 80% of what walks into a primary care clinic has an element of psychosomatic disease to it. No question. Even if it's just a bad eating habit, that's still a psychosomatic disease, technically speaking.
How we see our world is critical in health. In the West, you go to the doctor when your body is ailing, the psychologist when you have mental issues, and the priest or the rabbi when it's a spiritual matter. We're now finding how mind, body, and spirit are intimately interwoven and how critical it is to address them all together.
What we're really trying to do is to learn how to harmonize our body and our mind, our inside and our outside, our spirit with our physical being, so that we can become a more whole human being. You don't have to fight other people every day, but every day there are several things about ourselves that we frequently have to encounter. Our own ego, our own arrogance, our own weakness, our own tendencies to give up when something is too difficult, our own tendency to struggle against our own inner demons and not have the resources to deal with them.
While we have always looked, at least in the conventional allopathic medical approach, as the body being a physical vehicle like a car, and then blaming the breakdown of the car on the mechanical parts, a new biology is arising that recognizes that there's a driver in the vehicle. And of course, the difference a driver makes on a car. A good driver, a car lasts a long time and runs beautifully and healthy, and a bad driver destroys the vehicle.
So how have you been driving your vehicle? Have you been mindful about where you're going and paying attention to the bumps on the road? How do you handle stress? Stress contributes to a majority of the chronic illnesses people experience today. We need to understand what it does to the body and how it wreaks havoc on us in order to have a true grasp on health.
stress hormones cause the blood vessels in the gut, which is involved with growth and maintenance of the body, all the organ system. The stress hormones cause the blood vessels to constrict. When the blood vessels constrict, that forces the blood to go from the gut to the arms and legs. That's where I'm going to need it, the blood, because that's where the energy is, run, fight, or flight. But when I constrict the blood vessels in the gut, then I shut down the maintenance and growth of the body, all the functions that keep me healthy, while I'm in that stress moment. The immune system uses a lot of energy. As you know, when you're sick, you get so tired out because you're putting a lot of energy in the immune system to protect the interior of the body. But if you're being chased by a lion, you don't want to worry about some problem on the inside. When you're being chased by a lion, you want to get all the energy to run. So stress hormones not only shut down the blood vessels of the viscera, but they actually inhibit the immune system to conserve energy. When you're in a fight or flight situation, you don't use conscious reasoning and logic because it's too slow processing. You want instantaneous reflex reactive behavior. Well, that's hindbrain. So it's interesting, the stress hormones actually constrict the blood vessels in the forebrain, pushing the blood to the hindbrain so you can get into that reactive mode and work instantaneously high-speed responses. But then there's a consequence. Since the conscious brain is the thinking, intellectual, logic brain, when you close down the blood vessels in stress, you become less intelligent.
Less intelligent? Yeah. Crisis mode makes us more like reactive animals than moral humans who are personally empowered and vibrantly alive.
Because if we don't have the confidence, the organismic confidence that we can take care of ourselves, take care of our health, ward off blows that are coming in. Many of those blows generated by us, our own negativity, bad habits, disempowered ways of being in the world, ways of not knowing how to relate to people, ways of not knowing our own authentic potential as human beings. We don't feel strong. We don't have confidence that we can really live an empowered life. And when we don't have that type of confidence, we don't have the faith that we can really take care of our health. And so what do? We give it over to somebody else. We say the doctor will fix me. If I take this pill, it will fix me. No, that's not the way.
You must take primary responsibility for your health. If you're not willing to do that, the shaman, the doctor, the priest, nobody will be able to heal you. Once you do take responsibility for your well-being, then the body's healing mechanisms kick in.
If you don't have your health, then what do you really have?
First of all, take charge of your life. Don't be at the effect of everything happening to you. Learn to say no. Learn to take out some time for yourself, even if it's taking some deep breaths when you stop at a traffic light, in line at the bank, in line at the supermarket, when somebody's yelling at you. Don't take everything on, and deep breathing is amazing for reducing stress. I mean, it's just absolutely proven. There is so much research on it. Take some deep breaths right into your belly, hold it and let it go. And if you take 3 or 4 of those, you really will lower your stress. And if you do that several times a day, it really makes a difference.
Good health is the basis for higher growth and evolution, for personal development and awakening.
You exist in timelessness, that you're simply a manifestation of an infinite being in time, but that your true nature exists in timelessness. And it's the discovery of that true infinite nature that brings about exceptional health.
The real question becomes, what's the point of any of it? Why bother getting healthy? Finding meaning and purpose in life is key. The exploration of our consciousness and the understanding of how special and powerful we really are is going to shape the direction of medicine and how we grow as a culture. The frontiers of science are already there.
Quantum physics came in 1930 and said, well, the physical world is very interesting. It's really the invisible, energetic world that is primarily responsible in shaping the physical world. In fact, a quote by Albert Einstein is, "The field," which is the energy, "the field is the sole governing agency of the particle," which is matter. So it says energy is the primary control of matter. And now we're beginning to look at the nature of how the physical parts of the body work, the proteins. And what we're finding is that the proteins respond more, reactive more to the energy fields of vibration, the quantum mechanics of the universe, rather than the physical chemical intervention of a Newtonian mechanism. So basically, the direction of medicine to really understand how the body works is going to have to move from the Newtonian physical mechanical model into an energetic model, because we find that it's the invisible energy fields that are primarily responsible in creating life from the proteins of the body.
Look at all the ancient healing arts that have kept people healthy for generations. Many of them were based on the premise that there's an energetic matrix that surrounds us and binds all of life. They emphasized using plants and natural remedies to bring the body into balance, and they taught us how to eat seasonally and mindfully so we'd stay in harmony with the environment around us.
In ancient China, the doctors were essentially kind of kept on retainer, where they were paid a small fee every month. The good doctors were the ones who had this collaborative relationship with their patients in order to keep the patient healthy. If the patient became sick, the money stopped. Why pay the doctor when you're sick? That's the opposite of here in the West, where once you get sick, you begin to pay through the nose.
The whole system is geared to taking care of sick patients. The whole reimbursement is about that. Doctors get paid for ordering medical tests, for seeing the patients more frequently. Everything is geared in the anti-incentive arena. So we need to switch it so that individuals go to doctors and the doctor gets paid as the health of the patient improves across the board.
Let's take the best of old and new, East and West, and blend them into a new understanding of healthcare that emphasizes the enhancement of the system instead of waiting for it to break and paying triple to fix it. Our bodies have evolved and adapted with nature and are an integral part of that biosphere. From the good bacteria in our guts to the phytonutrients in our fruits and vegetables, there's been a symbiotic web of life that we've been a part of that sustained us and helped us flourish. It's about how we live. As we start to increase our exercise, we start to release endorphins that make us feel better and get our blood flowing. This turns the engine on and wakes up our metabolism. As we start to pull higher quality fuel in our bodies, we get more nutrients, again bringing up the overall energy of the system. We learn to relax more during the day and sleep better at night, which helps the body recover and fight off disease better. And as we learn to control our stress response and find some meaning and purpose in life, the wasted energy here gets fed back into the wheel, bringing energy, happiness, and health back into our lives. It's now time to start looking at a new model for healthcare that looks at us in our entirety and puts an emphasis on lifestyle and the enhancement of vitality, not the war against diseases that come from our lifestyle choices. We can use all of our modern innovations to help people when they need it, but staying focused on prevention can move us from a sick care to a true healthcare model.
Our job is to be educators. My job is to teach my patients. If that fails, I'm there to take care of the structural problem.
What I'm hoping is that we end up having good health care for acute issues, but for chronic issues, for chronic illnesses, diabetes, cancer, and so on, that we actually have education, that we have the availability of good food, that we detoxify the environment, we educate our children, educate our parents to how to live a healthy lifestyle.
Vitality is not merely the absence of disease. It means living life fully and being able to enjoy our days with our loved ones.
This isn't just an accident to be here. This is the greatest opportunity you can ever imagine. This is a place to create and sense and taste and love and touch and experience and everything. It's like, this is my idea of what heaven was all about, to come into a place of creation.
So where do we go from here? And how do we start living a life with more vitality? The good news is that we're living in extraordinary times. There's a renaissance happening as we speak. Local farmers markets and community-supported agriculture groups are springing up in every town. We've all realized that the old ship is sinking, and we're creating a new reality for our future. We invite you to join these local heroes and get involved in something bigger than you.
13 countries, given about 7 million people access to water.
And how many folks do you have working for you, or with you, I should say?
Under 10.
Fairly efficient use of resources then.
Yeah.
Right.
We don't need people. I mean, we have thousands of people working for us, but they're not working for us. They're doing it themselves. And that's the point. I mean, our philosophy is guerrilla humanitarianism, do-it-yourself humanitarianism. Like, look, here's what we've done. This is how we've done it. Go do it. Go do it yourself. It's this easy. Here's a filter. Wherever you're going next, offload it. When you're there, if you have questions or challenges, we're a resource for you, absolutely. It should be you following your passion and going, pursuing your life and plugging this into it instead of, you know, dropping everything and joining the Peace Corps type model.
We have a number of big global challenges ahead of us, but there's a new breed of philanthropists out there really making a difference. From local farming, environmental conservation, or clean water programs in needy communities, there's a resurgence of energized people working to make the world a better place.
So the slow food movement's obviously alive and well here in Los Angeles, 45 miles away from the market. Living in the city and getting it straight from the farm, that's nice. We don't have to pay the oil companies for our dairy products.
So it's interesting, a lot of the people that have been talking about working on the land here talk about how it's just this wonderful form of exercise. And, you know, as far as I'm concerned, this is the original form of exercise. It's called work. And you could get out here and you do it, and you feel good, and you got sun, you get your hands in the dirt, and
You make your own food.
you make your own food.
Waiting for others to fix our problems has clearly not worked. Gandhi famously asked us to be the change we want to see in the world. Vitality begins with you. Healthy communities and families start with healthy individuals.
It's important to note that if you're currently on any prescription medications, you mustn't simply come off of them. It's dangerous to simply pull off the drugs, and many of you might need to stay on these medications for the rest of your life depending on how advanced your condition is. That doesn't mean, however, that you can't start living your life with more vitality today.
There are plenty of good physicians out there that want to see you get more involved in your healthcare.
I mean, that's my mission. I know it's your mission to try and change the attitude of that big medicine wheel that turns ever so slowly by just turning people on to the wealth of their own health and the power that health can bring you, and that how many people you can attract to health. It's like, you know, it's like honey to bees. You know, people really, really will come to a system if it's really, truly, truly going to benefit them. And I know that by treating the person and not the injury, we're taking a giant step in that direction.
Our job, again, as wounded healers, is to, number one, wake ourselves up, and then by walking a path of integrity and heart, create the space for the patient to have the courage to do the same thing. You know, life is a potentially difficult road to hoe. There are all sorts of pitfalls and inner and external demons along each individual's path that each person has to struggle with in terms of defining, you know, who they are. You know, in the limited amount of time, you know, that we have here breathing air on this planet. And we're not really given a lot of information, education, support, or inspiration about how to navigate that path, how to navigate that road with integrity. And a true healer has to encompass all of that, because guess what? Human beings are not sectioned off into parts. We are holistic. We are whole organismic entities.
Has your doctor ever asked you, how do you sleep? Has your doctor ever asked you, what are you drinking? How much are you drinking? Has your doctor ever asked you, what's your relationship with your wife? What's your relationship with your children? What's your relationship with your work? Do you play? How do you rest? How do you play? All of those questions are important because they affect your health. Not just eating, but eating and sleeping and stress and breathing and prayer and social structure, all are aspects of your health.
Let's bring the best out in ourselves, our doctors, and our communities by living life more fully. Look at the 4 spheres in the Wheel of Vitality and ask yourself, what can you do in each of these to get a little healthier in the next 100 days? Start slowly and see how small, meaningful changes can really dramatically impact your overall health.
People come to us, they get educated, they have this knowledge. What do they do with this knowledge? And I have an expression, and I tell every patient, self-knowledge without self-change is self-abuse.
If you think it's too much work getting healthy, think about how much work it is staying sick.
It's easy to think that your state of health is too far gone or you're too ill, but the truth is that healthy living can only improve your situation. So the sooner you start to live a healthy lifestyle, the sooner you'll start to feel better.
Let's be the change we want to see in our world.
So now the question becomes, where do we go from here? We understand that we need to live a life filled with vitality, but how do we do it? We decided after making this film that we needed to really be responsible about now delivering the resources that people can need so that once you know better, what are you going to do about it? Okay, so what we did was we created this thing called the Vitality Challenge. It's a 100-day challenge where you pick one thing out of each of the categories of diet, exercise, sleep, and mindset, and you do that one thing in each category every single day for 100 days. We create the support system, we give you all the information, the knowledge, the books, the workbooks, the DVDs with all the extra information that you need, and then we hold your hand and we help you go through it, okay? The thing about implementation in healthcare is that that's where the rubber hits the road. So the 100-Day Vitality Challenge was designed to say, okay, now what? How are we going to get there? How are we going to get to that next step? And what are we going to do to do it? And so we sat with our experts and we came up with this program, and we're really proud of it because the people who've gone through the test program are absolutely in love. They've made the changes and they're doing what they need to be doing in their lives. So it's one thing, each category, 100 days. You have access to special interviews with our luminaries. We have calls with a lot of the people that are behind this vitality movement, and we're creating the support structure to help you get to the next level. So go ahead and click on the link over here, get started with your Vitality Challenge today, and let's see you in 100 days and see a new you, a life filled with vitality.